Okay, so this weird application thing just popped up on my computer and shut off my video. And so now, as you know, I'm going to do my life up here on Genogram, and I'm going to show you 3 generations. Um, Actually, I'll show you my grandparents. I'm going to add significant people in my life to this, and I will leave out some people. And you guys can do the same for your genograms. Going back generations, if you didn't know, your dad's dad, and you had those grandparents, you don't have to fill that information in super accurately. But here's where we're going to go ahead and start. And so I'm just going to show you, typically what you have is you identify yourself, okay? And so females then are circles. Okay, so a female is a circle and a male is a square. And so over here, okay, this is going to be an example of my marriage. Okay, so this is me. And the way that I show that it's me is I do a double line around it. So you guys will do a double line around yours because that's the key person that the genogram is around. And so I was married for several years. Okay, so I was married for 18 years, but my husband and I are divorced. Okay, so this mark right here shows the divorce mark. And oftentimes you'll put a symbol down that says the year that the person was divorced. Okay, so we were divorced in 2014. Okay, so in our marriage, we have 3 children. Okay, so we have a son, and my son is our oldest child. And so you can see, I think this shows it the opposite on there, but I'm not sure. But you're working left to right. And so this is my son. He is the oldest, and he is 20. So I'm going to put his age in there. Sometimes people put birth dates. I like to put ages because I can't calculate birth dates real well and figure out how old people are, and so it's easier for me. And then we have a daughter, and our daughter is 15 years old. And then we have a third child, and that's my 13-year-old daughter. So I have Jordan, and I would typically write down their names. If I was working with a client, whether in a health setting or a social work setting or psychology setting, I would still work on names because names matter. So I have Jordan, I have Josie, and I have Jillian. Okay, so those are our children from our marriage. And so this right here, this solid line is what you call a marriage line. Okay, now if you are living with someone, and I think a couple of you might be, what you're going to do is your symbol, if you can see this, is going to look like this. So it's going to be a dotted line, okay? And one of the things that you can put is if you're engaged by any chance, you can always put an engaged, and you can put the year you were engaged. So like engaged in 2018, okay? So that's what you can do. All right, so this is what it's going to look like. So for example, if this is you, okay, where you're going to start then, okay, if you don't have children, where you're going to start is you're going to start with you. And you're going to do a drop down box, and I'm going to make it kind of big, okay, because all of you have parents, okay, all of you have a dad and all of you have a mom biologically, okay. Some of them may not be in your life, and I'll show you what that looks like too. Okay, so this is going to be kind of what yours looks like then. You're going to start with you, you're going to drop down from your parental box. This is my mom, this is my dad. My mom and dad were divorced when I was 2, okay? So I'm just going to put 2 years old because I'm the reference person. This is part of my story. I was 2 years old when they divorced. Okay. And I have a brother. My brother is older than me, so he is going to go before me to my left. And this is my brother, okay? So my dad, my mom, my brother, and me. Parents were divorced. Excuse me. So we come over here because what we know is that a lot of times people get remarried, okay? And so what they have you do in genograms is they have you write the remarriage over here. I don't like to do that. I like to write the remarriage like the husband's on the same side as as the wife. It makes more sense to me that way. My mom has been married and divorced several times, like several times. There's actually one more, I believe, that's actually no, I think one of them was an annulment, and that's when the marriage supposedly doesn't exist. But she has been married 5 times, okay, and divorced 5 times. She was living with a significant other, but she is no longer living with him. If she was still married, or if she was still living with him, I would put the dotted line, make him just a little bit bigger here because he's currently in the present, okay? But he, like I said, he's not around anymore. Okay. I have a pretty distant relationship from my mom, or with my mom. And so one of the things that you can do is you can show relationship lines on here. And so relationship lines, you're going to see on this lovely piece of paper that you have, that I gave you, that you're going to use, you're going to see that there's a distance line, and the distance line kind of looks like this, okay? My mom and I aren't real close. One of the reasons why my mom and I aren't real close is because my mom was an alcoholic the whole time I was growing up, and then into my adulthood too, and even as my kids were younger. And so because of some different things that have happened within the substance abuse, we have just been pretty distant. Excuse me. So one of the ways I'm going to show you that there is alcohol or drug abuse in my family and my mom is that I'm going to make a mark halfway through her and fill that in the bottom. Okay? And so that's going to show you that that person suffers from substance abuse. Now, if there's recovery, and there is recovery with her, she hasn't drank for about 2 years, okay? You will put recovery 2 years by that person, okay? So just, you can kind of spell out the story with them beside them. Excuse me. The other thing is, you're going to notice that there's more circles back here on your key that you're going to use. The other thing is there's serious mental or physical problem. Okay, I'm going to also fill in the side of her. Okay, because she also suffers from some mental illness. She suffers from depression, anxiety. I question bipolar, but there's some different things in there that she suffers with. So there is that mental health issues there too. So we'll put that. All right, so this over here is my dad. My dad lives pretty far away, so our relationship is pretty distant. Okay, but we still chat occasionally. I actually just returned from vacation from seeing him last week, and so it's a good relationship. It's just distant. It's not super close. Anyway, but what I want to tell you then about my dad and how I'm going to show you this is that my dad is remarried. Okay, he is also remarried, and they have several children together. So they have a boy, and then they had another boy together, and then they had another boy together, and then they had a girl, and then they had another girl. Okay, so this is the youngest girl they had. These are my half siblings then. Okay, so they are my dad's children, they are my half siblings. What's significant is I also know my step siblings. Okay, so what I'm going to put over here is that my stepmom was married before. Okay, but their marriage ended because he died and left her a widow. And so when death happens in the family, you put an X through the person. If I am working with somebody, I oftentimes will not put an X through them while they're sitting with me because I think that can be kind of hurtful sometimes. So usually I just put a D beside them and how long ago they died. And so together these two had a son and a daughter who are my step siblings. Okay, so that's how I know on this sibling line right here, this is me, this is my brother, these are my half siblings, these are my step siblings. This girl right here also died when she was a couple days old. So this is my sister Abby. And so I indicate there that she died. There are also some different things on this paper that show you how to mark biological children, foster children, adopted children, stillbirths, miscarriages, abortions, twins, all of those kinds of things. So this paper will be handy for that. What I do want you to understand is because you may be like, well, is she close to anybody at all? Okay, and so that's what I'll show you a little bit here, is that my mom's side of the family, my mom didn't raise me, okay, but I was very fortunate to be raised by my grandparents. So I was raised by them. I'm going to do a double line to my grandpa. The reason for that is because I was super close to him. I was actually really close to my grandma too, had just an average relationship, close, no significant distance or conflicts or anything like that. But very close to my grandpa. My grandpa, knowing that I was very close to this significant person in my life, that there were some other things going on here. My grandpa did pass away. And so I would put, died 2012. Okay. And so what we see here, and then is my grandma died a few years later. I helped kind of take care of her after my grandpa died. Okay. And so she died in 2015. And so both of them are gone, both of the people that I was kind of close to in terms of family. One of the things that's significant about their children, okay, is that I'll show you that they had an oldest daughter and a son and another daughter. Okay, my mom is the youngest. This son right here died, and he would have a line down here for alcohol. He died in a drunk driving accident where he actually caused the accident, killed himself and a person in another car. So there's alcohol abuse here. So you can see a little bit of alcohol abuse here, but no alcohol abuse in my grandparents. So I don't know how much deeper I should really go into this because this is about the gist of my family. I don't really have dates for this. I think the pattern that this shows is the significance here. One of the things I want to show you too is that both of my grandparents were married before and were divorced before. So if you're going to see a pattern within my family, what you're going to see is there is a pattern of divorce in my family. Okay, my grandparents, my parents. One of the really cool things is if I was going to show you my dad's side, is that my dad's side, my dad also had a stepmom. And so my dad's parents divorced, remarried different people. But one of the really cool things about this is my optimistic piece of it, is that when people got remarried, not talking about my mom, but when people divorced and got remarried, they made their second marriages last. So the people in my family, grandparents on both sides, my dad and stepmom, everybody but my mom, are making their marriages last, their second marriages. You're talking 50-year marriages. My dad's on their 30 years, or actually more than 30 years. And so there is some hope there that they actually do some things. So there is a legacy there of that. So some other things then that I talked about that you can look at for patterns. You could look at abuse. Abuse is something that you can look at if children have suffered child abuse. You can look at some different things there. One of the things about my brother that I did forget to put is my brother is intellectually disabled and lives in a group home. So the correct term used to be mentally retarded. It's not politically correct anymore. So we would show that on him too. And I would also want to write down the ages kind of some of my siblings. So my age, I would write down my age as being 42. My brother is 43. And then I would put some ages in here as well. So some of those types of things. All right. So this isn't the case, but if it was the case, I want to show you a couple of other lines. Let's say that with my ex-husband, I have lots of conflict, which I don't. We co-parent really well together. We talk about things together. We do stuff for our kids. So there's not conflict. But if there was, you would see a line like this to the person I had conflict with. Okay. So if I had conflict with that person, that would be an issue. Let's say I was abusive to my youngest child, which I am not abusive to my youngest child. But let's say if I was abusive to my youngest child, one of the things that you would find is I would do the conflict line with an arrow. So that shows one way conflict. So I am abusive to her. And I would write what kind of abuse there was. So I would write if it was physical, if it was emotional, if it was sexual abuse. Okay. And so you do have those lines too. And all of those lines are right here. If you have, for example, let's say my dad and I never talked from the time I was like 15. We don't talk anymore ever. So one of the things we would do is a cutoff relationship line, which would look like this, okay? And that's on here too. All right, I'm gonna stop because this is 15 minutes of trying to follow this. Hopefully you kind of get the gist of it. Make sure you just kind of look, follow along. You guys can even, remember this is me, okay, right here. That's me. If you need to kind of screenshot or stop it and kind of look at it, that's fine. I hope that glare is not too bad on there, so I hope you can see it okay. Anyway, do your own genograms, submit them below, put in as much information as you can for me. And like I said, I'm going to do a summary of your genogram, a narrative of your genogram, and send it to you, and then you can tell me if it's correct or incorrect. All right, good luck on your assignment. Have fun doing it. Just kind of get creative. You can rewrite it as much as you want before you send me the picture. Anyway, thanks for all of your hard work this semester. We've only got 1 week left after this week. You guys have been great. And I will probably see you next week with new lectures. Bye.